Hello, my DC fans. We have now made it to the final movie in the DCEu, Aquaman 2. And with Aquaman 2 and the Lost Kingdom now hitting theaters, it is time for us to go into full spoilers with everything involving the final DCEU movie. I'll be telling you my thoughts on the overall plot, things I enjoyed, things I didn't enjoy. Do we even talk about the future? Because this is it. This is the end. There is no future. Sucks things had to end this way, and even worse that Aquaman 2 was dealt the pressure of being the ending of a 10-year-long universe when this movie was never meant to be the ending. Either way, I want to hear from you guys what you liked, didn't like about Aquaman 2, and well, just what do you think they should definitely do different in the new DCU? Drop in the E, because that's going to make a difference. Alright, so just kind of reiterating my thoughts on Aquaman 2. Look, I didn't hate this movie. We were hearing all this time that this film would be absolute garbage. People were walking out of the test screenings and things like that when I really don't think it was that bad. Is this a great comic book movie? No. But is it one I actually had fun with, found myself entertained, and even enjoyed some of the silly jokes along the way? Yeah, not everything is going to be like what Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or Across the Spider-Verse was. I know we all wish comic book movies to just constantly give us the huge high where we walk out going, that blew my mind. But more than not, we're going to get something that's just, hey, that was fun. That was a nice time waster. But okay, getting into the good and bad specifically, right from the beginning of this movie, I was like, oh, it's gonna be that kind of sequel. We kick things off in what I thought was gonna be a really awesome scene of Aquaman going after some modern day pirates taking over a boat, and it's like darkly lit, raining, Aquaman's looking like a beast, they're setting up this fight between him and some pirates. I'm like, yes! And we cut to Aquaman telling this story to his baby, and then us seeing almost none of the fight scene and him just mushing some toys together. With all the test screening rumors, I think there was a lot of this movie cut out. I wouldn't be surprised if the actual cut of this movie was closer to the 3-hour mark. The last Aquaman movie was like 2 hours 20, 2 hours 30. Usually go up a little bit in the sequel and runtime, so I think there was a lot they cut from this movie. And maybe that little gag at the beginning with just mushing toys instead of actually giving us a badass opening scene of Aquaman in his territory, I kind of would have loved to have seen that. That's the equivalent of seeing Spider-Man stop a modern day mugger in New York City. Batman beating up some criminals in Gotham. Aquaman taking down pirates as the opening and taking it seriously would have been a really badass opening, but it was treated like a joke. Then it leads us into Jason Momoa narrating in this very cliche, so what has my life been like now? Well, let me tell you a story. And I guess it kind of makes sense because he's literally telling this story almost to his kid. So it makes sense why it's kind of dumbed down, but it feels cheesy and again, just like a reshoot idea to like cut down on a bunch of scenes. And what we get here kind of made me go, ugh. Essentially what Aquaman lets us know is that ever since he's become king, he's not exactly loving the job. He's very bored with it. It's a bunch of meetings, political things, and we even get shots of Aquaman sleeping on the throne. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm tired of this trope. What is it about comic book characters that were meant and born to be rulers of their people, protect them, run them, and when they end up getting to that position, they hate it, they don't want it, they avoid it, they pass along responsibility to someone else. That's always made me mad with like the Thor movies, how Thor never wants to run Asgard, he has no desire for it. In fact, any chance he gets, he's leaving his people behind to go on an adventure. And now for Aquaman here, it's like he was never meant to be ruler. He's a party frat dude who likes to drink and hang out at bars, but because of a bloodline, he's put in charge of Atlantis. And now as the king, the guy's sleeping through meetings, could care less about what's going on, and I'm just like, why do we do that? Why is it so boring to have a hero that is actually proud to be king, that is actually wanting to protect his people? Why is it just funner to be like, he's a king and he's sleeping on the throne? This guy. I don't know. Kind of a pet peeve of mine that I've been noticing. Like, imagine if they did that with T'Challa and Black Panther. We'd hate that. That's what's making me really curious to see the Aquaman in James Gunn's DCU, because it looks like by the time we enter that world, every character is in their prime. So I feel like we're also going to get an Aquaman that's already king, and he's probably a great ruler. That brings us then to catching up with Black Manta, and he's honestly the thing I was most looking forward to with this movie. I have loved what James Wan has done with Black Manta, and he gets his hands on the Black Trident, which is the excuse for why he's able to go toe-to-toe with Aquaman. And again, all that is fine with me for how to get his power upgrade. I just didn't love how the trident itself stripped his personality as the movie continued on, and it introduced this like nobody afterthought villain that they get rid of so easily by the end of this movie. But early on, once Black Manta gets that trident and he swears revenge on Aquaman, because the guy did do him dirty, and this movie will remind you of everything in its past. That's something I didn't talk about in my review. This movie was flashback central. Literally every time they want to remind you of a key important detail from a previous Aquaman movie, from Justice League, whatever, they're just gonna play you the clip from that movie. I don't think you needed to replay the clips, and in fact, replaying those clips hurt Aquaman too, because it reminded you how much more of a serious tone the first movie had and how much sillier things got now. But anyways, when Black Manta, in his awesome, fantastic, comic accurate suit, go to Atlantis for the first time, wrecking havoc, and the battle that happens between him and Aquaman, oh, I loved it. That's the comic book goodness that James Wan is actually very good with, and why I wouldn't mind him directing another comic book movie again. And even just the back and forth between Aquaman and Black Manta had me dying. The line that Black Manta says to Aquaman in here once he has the trident going, "Aquaman, you steal your brother's throne and then his wife? Shame on you, Aquaman." That is like some classic comic booky type line that I love they threw in there, and is also why it made me mad that as the movie went on, Black Manta lost that personality, because the trident just made him evil for being evil. And then finally, 20-30 minutes in the movie, Aquaman goes, you know what, I don't know if I could do this on my own, I'm gonna need some help, I'm gonna go break out my brother. And that's really when the movie started to pick up for me. I was worried it was only gonna get much more silly, because they brought in that octopus that was gonna help free him. But also, as silly as that little character was, that was honestly a cool way to show off how Aquaman and him working with little sea creatures can be helpful. Octopuses are known to sneak in and go through the tiniest of crevices. It was honestly a great breakout buddy. But yeah, the relationship between Aquaman and his brother Orm here, loved it. I thought it was really great. They slowly started redeeming Orm throughout the movie, and even though half of Atlantis hates him, he still wants to fight for his people, look after them, and the guy was even willing to go back to jail after this mission was done. Patrick Wilson is honestly fantastic, and I'm gonna say it right now. Put the evil stuff aside, Patrick Wilson as Orm is exactly what I've always thought Aquaman should be like as a character, you know? I know we like the fun, woo, yeah, party dude Aquaman. I kind of dig the serious, loves his people, and is willing to do anything for him vibe that Orm gives off. Like, I kind of hope that's what Aquaman is in the DCU. Another thing I also like that they did with Orm, I had never thought about, but I thought James Wan played it off really well, is how Orm never really has spent time in the outside world, has always been in Atlantis. So even the way Orm runs is really funny. He like literally runs just by holding his hands back, kind of like Naruto. And I never thought about the fact that he's never had to run outside of water. Even at one point in the movie, he sees like a gigantic butterfly, but he doesn't think it's weird because he's never seen the animals or creatures in the outside world. But for every good thing, they had to throw in one silly dumb thing, and that's where Aquaman tricks his brother that a cockroach is a delicacy, and that we love eating them in the surface world, where you see Orm eat a cockroach and he enjoys it. Silly fun, I guess. I get wanting to make people laugh, but like sometimes have some dignity, comic book movie. Like, you had plenty of jokes already. You didn't need something like that in there. Two of the characters I wanted to talk about here. I know that Warner Brothers wanted to minimize Amber Heard's involvement in this movie. I felt like they did it kind of justice, because they did it in a way where Mara is sprinkled throughout the movie, where you do notice, okay, she's here. But I also thought they did a fine enough job with finding an excuse to not have her in there. You know, like she gets injured and is on bed rest for a while. Then she like shows up, but she'll like say 2 words. I know that's still going to be too much time for some people, but I thought they handled it fine. Randall Park, though, I love the extended amount of screen time that he got, and like his relationship with Manta was changing. Even Manta as a whole, I think they did him really well, and where he has so many chances to like get rid of Randall Park's character, whether that's axing him off or whatnot, but he always gives him a little bit of sympathy, another second chance, has a soft spot for him, and I kind of like that they did that for the villain. Doesn't work enough though, because Randall Park is immediately trying to get on Aquaman's side, work with him, saving his baby. There was one gag I love where the movie made fun of something from the first Aquaman movie. I don't know if you remember the first Aquaman movie, but something that kept happening over and and over is that characters would be in the middle of a discussion, a chat, and then an explosion would come out of nowhere, taking them out of that conversation. It happened like 4 or 5 times and people kept making fun of Aquaman for it. They did it one more time in this movie when Randall Park is explaining what Black Manta's trying to do, and once it happens, Aquaman makes a direct comment on it going, "Oh, I hate when that happens." That I didn't find too cheesy or silly. I felt like that was self-aware, and it's like a good inside joke for people who know that. Basically, bringing me to the ending of the movie, and then we'll talk about that god-awful post-credit scene. So we get to the end of the film. Black Manta brings out this secondary villain, We Don't Care. Obviously, Aquaman takes care of it right away. I did kind of hate how they got rid of Black Manta. He's hanging on a cliff. Aquaman is ready to save him, but Black Manta's pride and everything he's built up for doesn't want to do it. Let's go. And he lets himself die. It didn't feel that satisfying or that well earned. I felt like that kind of ending for Black Manta could have worked, but because he was under this trance and spell for the majority of the movie, it just didn't work that well as I wanted. Black Manta was such a badass character, and just to see him go off like that, it felt a little dirty. When it came to Orm, there was like a back and forth that he might be going bad, but no, he stayed good throughout the whole movie, and well, they exonerate him of all his crimes, but he's never allowed to go back to Atlantis. The man who was literally born, raised there, and that's all he's ever known, is forced to just live on the surface world. I didn't know if I loved that for an ending for Orm too, and we'll never see another conclusion or closure to that because this is the end. And Aquaman just doesn't even learn a lesson. There was really nothing about this journey that made him go, I should appreciate being king more. I should take my job more seriously. It just led to something I was kind of shocked by. So throughout the whole movie, Aquaman is contemplating, we need to share our Atlantis technology with the human world, combine it, and maybe we can reverse this global warming thing. It reminded me a lot of like what T'Challa was contemplating in Black Panther and how that movie ended with a press conference and trying to let the world know, but this was handled much more like a joke. Because we get to that press conference and Aquaman is on a stand, on a podium, letting the world know Atlantis will share the technology, but he ends it by going, I am Aquaman. Woo! Mic drop, walks away. It's literally Jason Momoa just parodying the scene of I am Iron Man from the MCU. The way the MCU starts is now the way the DCEu dies. That is so insane to me that no one at Warner Brothers even cared at this point anymore. Nobody said, this is just a parody. What are you doing here? You're making fun of them. You're trying to be that. What is this? But I'm sure Jason Momoa loved that because it's like, that's an iconic line for Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take that line for myself. My man. Just like I'm befuddled that this post-credit scene happened. So we get to the one and only post-credit scene, and you should be asking yourselves, for a movie that's the end of this universe and we're never going to see anything beyond it, why even have a post-credit scene? Just because it's standard common knowledge that comic book movies should have a post-credit scene, I don't like that. If you don't have a post-credit scene or anything worthy to tease for the future, just don't do it. Just end your movie. But instead, what we get is a little gag post-credit scene of Orm on the surface world having a cheeseburger, trying out the human food. And while he's eating his cheeseburger, he sees a roach on his table, squashes it, puts it on his sandwich, and continues eating the burger. Because he ate a roach earlier in the movie and now he likes the taste of them. That's how the DCEU ends, man. A man eating a roach. Poetic. Poetic. Again, like I said, the movie's mainly burdened with being looked at as the end of an entire 10-year-long universe, and it was just kind of a joke fun movie. I'm not gonna look at it as a movie that was supposed to be the conclusion. I'm just gonna look at it as a movie that was trying to have a little bit more fun with what the previous movie did, and I think it did succeed in that. I was entertained. I did have fun. Well, there was definitely silly and dumb things in here that irked me and made me go, why? But I felt there was enough redeeming cool stuff with the action scenes, some of the visuals, Black Manta. Also, I just really have a bias for James Wan because I like him as a director. I enjoyed it for what it is, but man, don't let this be what the DCU is, because we will never have a DC cinematic universe, my friends. But that's just my opinion on Aquaman 2. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, what you thought about the movie, what you liked, didn't like, anything, everything. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.